welcome to Tech Twice Weekly for October 14th, 2014. Yes, it's Tuesday, and it's Tech Twice Weekly. I know, we're normally Mondays. Monday didn't happen, but it's Tuesday, and here we are, and we're your source for technology news and discussion, normally every Monday, and we'll be back Thursday. I'm your host, Ben White, and I'm joined once again by my ever-returning guest and friend, Eric Fee. How you doing, man?
I'm back, baby.
How's it feel to have internet?
Really good. I didn't. I could have gone longer without it, but I would have chosen not to.
There we go. You've had a long enough dry spell, right?
I'm not addicted. I can quit whenever I want.
You just don't want to.
Exactly.
Sweet, sweet internet. All right. Well, I suppose we should jump into our top stories. So our first story tonight comes from Android Central, sharing U.S. Cellular's announcement that they are beginning to take pre-orders for the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 and will be shipping them out on October 17th. So if you're not familiar with U.S. Cellular, they are the fifth largest wireless carrier in the U.S., and the phone will be sold for $299.99 with a 2-year contract, or, and get ready for this one, $770.16 without a contract. This announcement means all 5 major U.S. carriers will be offering the nearly Nexus 6 sized 5.7-inch Nexus or Galaxy Note 4. I don't know. I might be looking at the Note 4 depending on how the Nexus 6 announcement turns out. But I'm going to hold out. I won't be pre-ordering, so we'll see how that comes along. TweakTown is reporting on rumors that Samsung is considering dropping their TouchWiz UI in favor of a new Android interface overlay called Iconic UX. The rumors about this change come from a patent filed with the Korean Intellectual Property Office in March of this year by Samsung. Based on concept screenshots included with the patent filing, the UI for Iconic UX appears to be fairly similar to TouchWiz. However, it looks to scale better on larger displays. This leaves many suspecting the change is being done in anticipation of the Android L release to be released later this month, probably making sure their UI works on the larger form factor phones and on larger form factor tablets. What do you think about the TouchWiz UI? Are you a fan of that one, Kage?
I've always found it to be adequate, although I'm not the biggest fan of most of the custom interfaces. I prefer kind of a stockish feel or close to. I don't know. It just as Android has changed, the stock interface has changed with it to become to have much more to offer, and it also, of course, is a little less busy than some of the carrier skins.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me, it comes down to the launcher. I'm fundamentally my workflow is with Google Now, and not having immediate direct access to just swipe to the left, or I suppose swipe to the right and get to my left screen to bring up Google Now, for me would seriously interrupt my workflow. But I know a lot of people who really like TouchWiz as long as they have a phone powerful enough to run it without it slowing down. All right. Well, let's see. It'd be interesting to get our hands on the new one and see what the reviews say. I guess we really won't know till it comes out, but I'm hoping the reviews come out better for it because there's been a lot of negative TouchWiz reviews. In case you're blissfully unaware, the Next Web reported yesterday on the 20th birthday for Netscape Navigator, the internet browser that really started it all. Back on October 13th, 1994, the Netscape Navigator browser was released publicly for anyone to get their hands on. The browser was a replacement for Mosaic and offered smooth browsing on a 14.4 kilobit connection. It also provided continuous document streaming and, the most important feature, native support for the JPEG image format. So here's to you, Netscape. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Please don't file a DMCA takedown notice for this. Happy birthday to you. What do you think, Eric? What was the first browser you remember using? Was it IE before we knew better?
Oh yes, and not only that, but be careful. That birthday song is copyrighted.
What I said, don't file a DMCA takedown notice. That's the most important line of the song.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I remember using IE way back in the day, which was also in many ways very revolutionary of a browser.
In its time, definitely. It definitely didn't keep pace with development, but in its day, it was very good, especially compared to the Mosaics. And at the time, Netscape out there, it added a lot of features and functionality.
Like ActiveX, programming in the browser, what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, ActiveX, we hardly knew ye. Actually, we knew ye all too well, and we're happy to see you go, would be more like it. I remember everything for a brief while there was using ActiveX.
Yeah, it was a horrible time for the internet.
And
Horrible.
then it all jumped to Flash, active scripting, right?
Oh yeah, I got a lot better.
By better, you actually mean worse. It was better for security in some aspects, I suppose, but it functionally was just as terrible,
Yeah, it still has problems. At least Chrome's got its own built-in thingamajigger.
right? We're just now seeing. We need to do a Viking funeral for Flash sometime soon.
Can we just murder it and put it in a mass grave?
Cold blood. Murder it in cold blood.
Yeah, premeditated.
The Verge passes along Eric Martin's resignation from the popular social network site Reddit, as he shared on his Twitter account, "After 6 outstanding years, I'm leaving Reddit. Thank you to everyone who helped me along the way." Reddit was launched in 2005, and Eric Martin joined the site as a community manager in 2008. To give some perspective on how Reddit has changed in the time Eric was there, when he joined Reddit, it had around 7,800 subreddits. This has now grown to over 500,000 subreddits. Eric also moved over into the general manager role, taking on spokesman duties, becoming a public voice to many of the events that would take place within the Reddit community. It hasn't been all good times, though, as Eric also worked through developing policies for handling illegal and distasteful subreddits in the community. Right now, no replacement general manager has been announced, and Eric hasn't publicly said what he'll be up to after leaving Reddit either. Now, I know I'm a big Reddit lurker. I think you might post to Reddit more than me, but do you have any associative connection to the admins or the people that run it? I feel like that's all just transparent to me.
Yeah, they don't really make up the website. They are, you know, they're the faceless overlords that make sure it's running, I guess.
Right? It's not like Facebook where everyone knows Mark Zuckerberg or MySpace where everyone was friends with Tom. It feels like Reddit is run by and large by the community. And unless there's something changes and people are unhappy about it, or I never hear about admins or even the business behind the scenes.
They make a lot of important changes and additions and modifications to the site and move the technology that moves it along. They also take care of nasty business of kind of tackling media frenzies around Reddit, which are becoming more popular, and they try and you know keep people away from and sometimes completely remove the more distasteful subreddits, which still are very many of them. But for the most part, yeah, they're kind of transparent.
I
But
think I like it that way, to be honest.
yeah, it's probably for the best that they kind of let their creation run wild. It is a community-driven site, so there's only so much they can do if they're not completely immersed in the community.
Well, looking towards tomorrow, Apple is coming out Well, actually, I mean, let me back up a moment. Apple does have a press event tomorrow, or Thursday, I should say, which is expected to be their new iPads and new Mac computer announcements. But at the same time, Apple is also working on living up to its iPhone 6 commitment to get into more countries faster than ever before. TechCrunch is covering Apple's release of the iPhone 6 to 36 more countries and territories, including Europe, Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, and Africa by the end of October. All told, this will bring the iPhone 6 to 69 countries in total. According to Apple's timeline, by the end of this year, they should have the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus in 115 markets. Have you jumped in on an Android Wear smartwatch? You feel like it's missing a keyboard? No? Well, PocketLint is reporting on a new keyboard being released by Microsoft for Android Wear smartwatches. It allows you to draw characters on the screen instead of using only voice commands. The app is designed to work with both the squared 320 by 320 resolution smartwatch displays as well as the rounded Moto 360 display, and currently available for free in the marketplace. What do you? I know we've talked about Android Wear watches a lot in the past, but what do you think about the idea of using this style of keyboard on one, Eric?
I wasn't really that won over by the little news article there, but I watched I saw the some of the images, and it actually looks pretty kind of cool. How they are basically using their finger to write letters and forming words with it. I think it could be pretty useful. I do know that sometimes you don't want to talk to the watch, or you can't, and this would be a nice stopgap measure, especially if you're trying to, like, I don't know, you have a helmet on, you're trying to input an address, who knows. But I think that there could be some use for it, and especially if it's free, that's great. And of course, say what you will about Microsoft, but typically a lot of their software is pretty well done, and so it might be a high quality app too.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot more applications for it realistically because something like this could also allow someone who may be disabled in a way in which speaking doesn't work for them. The thought of deaf people comes to mind, being that some of them have never really developed speech mannerisms. Having something where they could actually write characters on a watch could really bring the smartwatch functionality to a whole new set of people. And considering it's a niche market to begin with, the expansion of who can use it and who would want to use it, I think is a great thing.
Yeah, not only that, but also mute folks who can't talk.
Right? I mean, there's always that. Those guys, I guess, before this could just enjoy looking at the watch. I don't know. It seems odd that it never crossed my mind that the only interface for the watch was voice. I just, I guess, assumed there was some form of touch input for a text level, but apparently that's not true. So I'm glad Microsoft put this out, and I'm guessing it probably wasn't a primary project. If I had to guess, it was probably somebody internal side project that they got permission to do. Because I know Microsoft, like most big tech companies, want their employees to work on side projects and things. Like Google is famous for giving their employees, the Googlers, free project time. So I think this is good. I think it's a helpful addition to the growing smartwatch market. Well, Gizmodo is passing along Samsung's announcement that it is developing a new Wi-Fi technology that will boost data speeds 5 times faster than current hardware allows. According to their announcement, the new Wi-Fi standard will boost data speed up to 4.6 gigabits per second using the 60 gigahertz frequency. Early speculation expects this technology to be first implemented into medical devices and and telecommunications equipment, but if history holds true, it should eventually make its way down to the consumer market as well. What do you think about this super fast Wi-Fi, Eric? Is this something you'd be interested in?
I think that I'd have to be close enough to the Wi-Fi modem that I could just use a cable.
You think, according to the article, they've dealt with the fact that the 60 megahertz or gigahertz band and its shortcomings, according to the article. I mean, I haven't read Samsung's official documentation on it, but apparently that shouldn't be a problem. That it has some range that's supported.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't. You probably wouldn't have any problem if everyone in your apartment complex had one either. 20 different Wi-Fi is going at a zillion gigahertz between devices, and
The place I see this probably being used, if it were to come into the consumer market, would be along the lines of um, maybe like a home theater setup where you have a special router that is just a wireless access point between your home theater gadgets and the rest of your network, and using it to pass 1080p data or possibly even 4K data at a speed that's fast enough to keep the quality up.
well, there's already wireless ways to do the 1080p stuff.
Right. I mean, 1080p can go over a wireless G or an AC connection without much difficulty as long as there isn't a whole lot of other traffic on the network.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I think that it'll be great when I see it. Until then, whatever. I try not to take too much stock in these, especially when they're not done by the wireless consortium. They're done by a private company, because then it might mean, well, only Samsung devices can do the super duper fast stuff, and only Samsung routers can do super duper fast stuff. Everyone else is stuck with what we have, MIMO Wireless N, which, by the way, is still pretty quick when you don't have walls in between you.
That's actually a really good point. It wouldn't be the first time Samsung has kept a technology to Samsung devices. The Samsung smartwatch still only works with other Samsung phones, and even then, a very limited subset of Samsung smartphones. So that's a really good point. That until until Samsung decides to not only prove the proof of concept here, but also opens it up to either being an open source standard in some degree or perhaps tries to get the wireless consortium or some other standards organizations on board. This might just be a proprietary gee whiz technology.
Yeah, I mean, so WiDi, wireless display, has been around for a while. It was created by Intel, and it's for projecting video and sound onto a TV or monitor. Supports 1080p, 5.1 surround sound, and says it's supposed to be low latency. But it wasn't until version 3.5 that they supported the Miracast standard, which is basically the standard for transmitting uh, display data, either wirelessly or via USB or some other connector. And you can find TVs that support Miracast, and you can find dongles and devices that support Miracast out of the box.
Yeah,
And
Microsoft's new dongle is just that, Miracast transmitters, so you can plug it into TVs that support HDMI but not Miracast.
right, and until I see this kind of stuff popping up as a standard, I don't really worry about it too much. There have been research groups that have had in lab settings created very fast wireless connections and very fast and also very fast wired connections. But we're really stuck with the fact that for us folks at home, it's either slow wireless or relatively quick wired, and that's kind of what we're bound to. A lot of technology is not becoming really available and cheap. I mean, there was a time when every new technology was supposed to go straight to consumers. It became cheap and generic pretty quickly. But now we're seeing a lot of companies develop technology that they're only selling on their stuff. And the problem with that is that no one wants to shell out the extra 100, 200, whatever dollars it costs for that special technology, and they can just get something generic that works. Um, and that's I'm just waiting for things to become standards more than anything else. As long as they have these proprietary technologies, it's like, well, who cares?
Right. And I think at the end of the day, that really sums it up right there. Proprietary technology, it can be as amazing and impressive as it wants to be, and that's great. But if nobody else can get their hands on it and nobody else can use it, or in order to use it, you have to pay an exorbitant licensing fee, it makes it kind of useless because inevitably you're going to wait for someone to create an open technology or at least a more open technology that the community at large can actually use. So time will tell. We'll see how Samsung treats this. My gut says you're probably right. We aren't going to see it come to anything outside of a Samsung product, even if it is functional and as good as it advertised. So with that being said, probably my personal most exciting news of the evening, according to unnamed sources close to Google who spoke with Forbes, the much anticipated Nexus 9 tablet and Nexus 6 smartphone will be launched tomorrow, October 15th, via a blog post instead of a traditional big event. As expected, they will run Android L. However, no information has been given on if Android L will be released for other devices at this time. Pre-orders for the tablet will begin on October 17th and beginning shipping November 3rd. The tablet will be priced at $399 for the 16 gigabyte version and $499 for the 32 gigabyte LTE version. Forbes source also confirmed that the tablet will feature an 8.9-inch 2048 by 1440 display paired with the first 64-bit dual-core processor running Android. No specific details on the Nexus smartphone were provided by Forbes sources, however. Keep in mind, these are all just rumors until confirmed by Google themselves. But if you've been anxiously waiting for the next Nexus release, tomorrow may finally be the day. And given that we've hashed over the Nexus devices quite a lot on this show, I'm not sure there's anything more to add at this point. It's all been so much speculation. But are you ready for them to finally just come out with it, Eric?
I'm ready to be disappointed.
Well, for you, disappointment means that the rumors are actually true, right?
Yes.
Oh, well, I think, to be honest, as much as I would love to get my hands on this giant phone, my gut tells me that while the screen size is going to be good, nothing else about it is going to justify a $300 to $400 price tag to replace my Nexus 5. It's still running pretty speedy after a year, and I don't see any right now, unless something really blows me away in this announcement, to not just rock it for another year and see what the next generation comes out.
I don't know. These, if the phone really is 6 inches, even if it had almost no bezel, it's still too big for my pockets.
Right. But are you feeling that your Nexus 5 needs replacing after, being about a year old on the market, or are you still pretty happy with it?
I like it besides the battery.
That's right. You have mentioned that you have some battery issues with yours, but you are running vanilla Android too, right?
Right.
Yeah. I'd still encourage you to run CyanogenMod on there. I've had such an improvement in battery life since switching over.
Maybe.
But it also depends on what you're doing with the phone. Mine plays a lot of video, so I noticed a pretty drastic difference there. All right. Well, if any news actually comes out tomorrow, we will cover it alongside with covering all of the news that comes out Thursday morning from Apple's press announcement. So expect Thursday's show to be packed with Apple and Google announcements. That's probably going to be the bulk of it. and that's probably going to saturate the headlines overall. But I'm definitely going to dig through and see if we can weed out any other news out there, um, and try and find something else, since both of those stories are going to be covered in nauseum by the rest of the news media. All right. Well, our last story for today is for 4K TV owners. I know it's a growing market, but if you've already signed up for Netflix, you're set. Um, if not, Variety is reporting that Netflix has increased the price for members looking to stream their growing collection of 4K content. According to Netflix, if you want to access their Ultra HD content, you will need to subscribe to the Family tier plan for $11.99 a month, which not only supports 4K content, but also allows 4 active streams at the same time. Don't fret though, Netflix has made it clear that they are grandfathering in all current 4K content streamers at their current price point. So if you've streamed 4K content previously, you're going to be grandfathered in, no need to upgrade. However, if you want to take advantage of those additional 4 extra streams, or 2 extra streams, as the normal account only supports 2, you'll still want to upgrade to that family tier. All right. Well, that brings us into our tech toys you wish you could buy. I've got a couple of interesting ones for tonight. The first one here, grab the story, is a tool intended for conferences, technology conferences specifically. And it is a little tracking chip called Looped, Loopd. And the company just recently went through some rounds of angel funding, and the goal of this chip, it's intended to be worn around the neck or embedded in a conference badge, or something like that, is that it will actually track your progress through a conference hall. And then at the end of the event, when you go back to your hotel room or you sit down for a break mid-session, you can pull out the app or get onto their website and check where you have been, allowing you to see which booths you visited, help keep track of contact data for the different people you might socialize with during a conference. And the goal of the product is to help people better hold on to contact information and better remember what they've done during a conference, especially when you're meeting so many people and visiting so many different booths. It can be easy for it all to kind of blur together at the end of a long day. I know you've attended a couple conferences. Eric, what do you think about something like this? Is this a tool you'd actually find any use in?
No. I mean, it'd be great if you, for example, were at a workshop or a conference that had only a few venues. The conferences I've been to have had really a lot of talks, and they've been pretty good sized. So you really have to pick and choose where you're going. And as much as I think this is kind of neat and will probably do well, because conferences need, conferences are all about spending money. And a lot of times these types of devices will be delivered for fairly cheap, and the company will get advertising or something. But I don't know if it will provide a lot of benefit to the conferences that I usually visit. I mean, not only that, but to me, it's like I kind of know where I was and know where I went. So,
That honestly, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I like the concept. I think the concept is really interesting, but in practice, I unless a conference is a single day event, then maybe I could see some use for it. But most conferences that are multi-day, I'm going to spend the first day just scoping things out, getting my bearings. The second day, in the morning or the evening before, I'm going to plan out where I want to spend my time, what booths I want to visit. And so when I go to the booth, I'm there because I know I wanted to visit it. I don't need to remember that I visited it because I planned to visit it. But I don't know, one example that comes to mind that I could see this being useful would be a giant event. like maybe like on board with PAX, where you have hundreds of booths across multiple buildings, multiple floors, and maybe in an environment like that, I could see this being a little more useful. You could check which booths you stopped at and things like that. But practically speaking, again, and maybe it's just my workflow. I plan my day better. I don't just randomly wander from booth to booth and have to look back later to find out where I went.
That's true. Some people though do visit a lot of conferences in a given year, and so for some of them, I can see it very much blending together.
I suppose it has its market. I mean, it looks like I'm sure it'll do well. It's definitely got a very nice Web 3.0, nice looking website, bootstrappy. But I put it on here because I like the concept a lot. I was I was hoping I could pitch this to you, Eric, and you were going to come at me with the perfect use. But that's not going to happen. All right. Well, the swing and a miss. Maybe this next one will do a little bit better. Um, the next device I've got here is a product that is a removable battery-equipped power bar. It is a device that offers 3 AC outlets, and it connects as a normal power bar would do to a wall outlet. But what makes this stand out is that it's basically a power bar that also has a battery backup in essence. So you can charge your devices on it. You can take this battery out and have a removable battery when you're on the go if you need a battery pack. It's a 4,000 milliamp battery pack that has a 2.1 amp USB out port on it. They've also got a 6,000 milliamp version you can have as well. So you can have interchangeable battery packs. They all work the same. But what do you think about this? I mean, do you find yourself on the go and in need of power, or are you usually pretty charged up?
I'm not a big battery pack fan. I've had some in the past, and they have been underwhelming to say the least. And for the price this thing is asking, it's a little bit ridiculous. And not only
That's
that,
that's true. I mean, the price comes in starting at $80, $100 for the higher milliamp battery, and that's pretty steep.
you can get really high milliamp batteries on Amazon, and they might not be the highest quality, but they have so many more milliamps that even if they're only rocking like 50% of the actual capacity, they're still blowing this thing out of the water. First of all, second of all, you're paying $100 for a power strip with 3 outlets.
Well, but part of what you're paying for is the 3 outlets plus a battery backup solution. I mean, you got to keep that in mind. It's limited outlets because of the limited battery.
That's true, but also the have a. I didn't see that it didn't look like it can charge without that specific power strip, which means if you take it on a trip, you can't charge it when you get to a hotel room.
I thought that at first too, but looking at the pictures for the device, you could charge it independently off a USB power brick. It has micro USB in, so you could charge it independently that way. Um, you could go micro USB to an AC adapter and charge it off a ground outlet in a pinch.
Let's see here. Um, I'm not seeing where you're seeing that. I might just be missing it, but it does. To me, it doesn't look like it. I haven't watched the video on their company's website, but
Yeah, I had to go all the way to the company's website, and if you look at the first picture to the left of the 4,000 milliamp, you can see it has two battery outs. Um,
that might be true. But also, in one of the pictures it shows it charging two devices at the same time.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point.
If you can't charge it without the power thing, then I believe it's kind of a big waste because you can't. You have to have the $100 power strip giant brick thing to charge it.
Yeah, no, that would be the end of it for me. Let's see what their video has to say. Oh, goodness. Turn that down.
Wow, yeah, you're gonna have to edit that.
Let's see here. So, not a lot of dialogue in this video, but this shows the device in use. Probably gonna get a YouTube takedown for their stupid jingle now, but yeah, no. Based on that little short video, I'm gonna say that the power bar is the charging station.
Yeah, I don't like it.
That kills it for me. If I can't charge my battery on the go, then it's a waste of my time. And for $100, you could actually buy a smaller but proper APC battery backup solution as well.
That thing does not have a battery backup.
What doesn't have a battery backup?
The device you just linked. If you unplug it from the wall, the battery does not run what's plugged in.
Oh, did I misunderstand that? I thought that's what I was reading in the product description.
You definitely did.
Wow, no. This is just a really expensive, poorly designed battery and very expensive, limited functionality power bar. Yeah, I went from being rather excited about this product to being really disappointed. So I think tonight marks two big misses. Yeah, I can't even say I like the concept of this. At least I can say that with the necklace tracker dealie for conferences. This just went from what I thought was fairly innovative and kind of limited use case but useful to less and less and less to no use whatsoever. This is just an expensive waste of your time. There are cheaper, better devices that offer all the functionality this provides. You get a better battery and a standard power bar for $100. All right. Well, that being said, let's move into our discussions for tonight. I've got 3 topics here, and we've got time. We may be able to get to a second one, but I want to at least get into one of these stories. The first is a flight attendant who wants to ban electronics during takeoff again. She's not happy with the fact that everyone's been changing the policies. The FAA has issued new rules that phones, tablets, other small electronics can be used during takeoff and landing. And she would like those policies rolled back. Our second story is about the Firefox phone. It's coming out for $35. And the article itself is a little review of the Firefox phone. I'm talking about it. The fairly cheap phone, kind of not meant for the U.S. market exactly, but you can definitely get your hands on one. And the third story is about Apache, the open source web server reclaiming the server crown, so to speak, being the most dominantly used web server in recent polling. Looking at these 3 stories, Eric, any of them catch your interest?
I will say about the flight attendants, why and okay. I will say about Apache. Apache is awesome. It supports a lot of different things. It's a very powerful container format that runs very many applications, but I still like Nginx better personally. And I did see the article about the $35 Firefox phone, which I'd like to mention. Uh,
What do you mean you saw it?
I read the article a few days back, an article about its release and them showcasing it, and it is really, really cheap and really slow. But it's also pretty cool. $35. That's
Right.
less than a decent lunch.
And I think for the developing market and for getting people off of crappy flip phones and over to low end smartphones, I think this could really help people make that jump.
I think so too. And not only that, but I like the idea of very inexpensive smartphones with a wide availability because not everyone is so blessed that they can have an awesome Nexus 5 or something. Some people really kind of are scraping the barrel for what they can purchase, and I don't think that they necessarily need to be stuck on a Nokia.
Right, exactly. And particularly, I mean, having a cell phone nowadays is more and more and more becoming an essential. It's not just an accessory for the rich. It's not just a luxury to have a phone with you everywhere you go. It's really starting to become essential to at least have some way to be reached. Landline phones are really starting to go the way of the dodo bird in most households. And I think having a $35 price point to get into the smartphone is really helpful, especially a phone that offers a lot of functionality. I mean, it's got Wi-Fi, it's got Bluetooth, it's got a rear camera. It's not great, but 2 megapixels can take great photos in a pinch. I mean, mostly you got to make sure your lighting is fairly good, but it's good enough to get the job done of most pictures I need to take on my smartphone.
Well, think of it like this: it may not capture all your friends in the brilliant light. It may not be great for taking photos of a spectacular, uh, geological formation, but what smartphones really shine for is if you get into a car accident and you need to take pictures right away, or if you see something happen and you need to go grab a picture really quick, or if you just need a camera to record some kind of evidence or history, and you need that, like it's an important aspect of getting things done, then it's very awesome that it has a camera at all.
Right, exactly. The only thing that really left me head scratching about this phone, and the reviewer here mentioned it too, is that it has no battery backup for the time. So if the phone completely runs out of juice and shuts down, when you turn it back on, you're resetting the date, you're resetting the time. That seems weird to me that it pulls that information. I can understand synchronizing it off cellular towers, but to not store it on a little watch battery inside, that seems negligent.
Well, is the only problem I have with that is that if it runs really low, it won't pop up like your alarm because I use my phone to wake up in the morning, um, and I like that feature. Even if it's off, even if it's really low on battery, it has like a very low power alarm mode that it can go into, and that's cool. But with this kind of phone, that won't work if the battery gets really low. On that note, when you start the phone up and it tries to connect to a cell tower, it will get an updated time. So it's not like it really matters, I think.
Right, as long as you're in an area with cell phone coverage. But I mean, I take my phone out camping, I still use it as an alarm clock, even if I don't have cell signal. But I suppose that again, maybe I'm looking at practical uses of this in my use cases and not for the market that it's being sold to.
Maybe. Um, I'm looking forward to phones with higher quality and more features coming out at a similar low price point. That
Right.
said, you can always get used phones for fairly cheap, especially if they're a few years old.
Right, and this is just a first gen device too. I mean, so there's always room for improvement once you get the first car model out the door. Everything after that you can always build on. So that's pretty cool. Um, all right, well, that about wraps us up for this evening. Did you have anything going on? Anything you'd like to share with the listeners before we get out of here?
Not really. I recently moved, and as we mentioned, I'm sorry I missed a couple of shows, but I'm glad that your friend.
Back. Sorry, you're saying you just moved and then you cut out there for a moment.
I apologize. I just recently moved and got my internet turned back on at my new place. I'm glad to be back on the show. I'm also very happy that you had your friend to fill in for the last 2 weeks. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, good to get a different perspective on. Maybe get the both of you guys on sometime.
Totally, and I'm looking forward to, of course, shooting more Tech Twice Weekly, hopefully on schedule.
Yeah, definitely. And we did just shoot Pro Slackers After Hours on Sunday.
We finally came up with the much-needed episode 4, and I'm looking forward to getting episode 5 in the next week or two.
I'd encourage everybody to head over to proslackers.com/after hours. It's a great show that Eric hosts.
And Ben Frequents. It's a lot of laughs and a hoot, and we're actively looking for guests, so go ahead and contact one of us somehow, some way, and feel free to come on and joke with us.
Yeah, I would love to have any of the listeners on to share their opinions, share their thoughts, and more the merrier.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, Google Hangouts supports something like 32 people or something ridiculous like that. If we could have a full Google Hangout, yes, it would be madness, but I'd like to do it just to say I did it.
That's my goal someday, to have a 64-person podcast.
Right? Chaos be damned.
What could possibly go wrong?
Awesome. Well, I guess we should sign out here. The show is always on at techtwiceweekly.com. We're on Twitter at techtwiceweekly, and of course on Facebook /techtwiceweekly if you want to find us there. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on Blueberry, we're on TuneIn Radio. We've got our show on there every twice a week, so if you prefer to listen to us that way, or through their app on your smartphone, that's always an option. And again, if there's a podcast directory that the show's not in that you'd like us to be in, that's easier for you to get your hands on the show, drop me an email, feedback@techtwiceweekly.com, or hit me up on Twitter, any of that stuff. That'd all be great. So, all right. Well, with that being said, I look forward to speaking with everybody again on Thursday. Like I said, we'll have lots of Google and Apple news, hopefully. Apple for sure, Google supposedly. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Have a good night, everybody, and thank you for joining us.